Now the first thing we have to do, obviously, is we've got to shut this water off and be careful with this top lid. I always try to be really careful with that. I put it on the carpet because the last thing I want is for that to break. Okay, before anything, at this point, okay, you shut the water off, and there's a gate valve usually behind your toilet. Here's this one right here. And I always cross my fingers because you never know. Sometimes those gate valves don't shut off all the way. And if they don't, it's like, how are you supposed to do your toilet repair, your change out and all that without turning the water off to your house? You know, if it's dripping a little bit, then I take a bucket and I'll slip a bucket over there, and there's a pipe there, and then I can hook the pipe over into the bucket. But I'm going to cross my fingers. Flush this, keep the lever down. That'll get most of the water out of the tank. Okay, lucky for me, there's no water coming out of the fill pipe here, so I believe that's all shut off. Okay, now there's still water in the tank, and I want to get most of that water out. Okay, because I'm gonna have to. Once I disconnect the toilet, I'm going to set it down on its side. Water's going to go all over the place. And I don't really want that to happen, you know. And so, what am I going to do with that? Well, I've got my trusty bucket here. There's a couple ways to do it. You can put it in a bucket, or you can put it directly into the toilet, you know. This is clean water. I don't really necessarily need gloves for this. But if you feel more comfortable getting gloves, you can. So I'm just socking it up with a fairly large sponge here. And that's just how you're going to have to get it out. If you've got a shop vac, you could remove it that way. Some people have said, "Hey, Joe, why don't you use a shop vac?" Well, yeah, that's all fine and dandy if I had one. But if you don't, you can do it just with the sponge. And I've had to do it with just a little kitchen sponge, way smaller than this, like if I didn't have a big sponge handy. It just takes a little bit while longer, or I've cut a Dixie cup and kind of scooped it out as best I could. Then you could take a rag in there if you didn't have a sponge. All kinds of things you could do. Get this water out. So I'm just trying to get as much water out of here as possible. If some of it drips on the floor, that's okay. Okay, now what am I going to do with this water? I can dump it right in here. And see, there's all this water has to go down the tube here. Okay, see how high it is? Now I could sponge all that out, but you could take your water and dump it right in there. See where the line of water is? Let's see how low this goes when you just pour some water down it. See, that's going directly down into the drain. You see there? The water's down there. It's not up here now. Now I can take my sponge, and I can just get that little bit of water out. Okay? Now, I could have used the whole sponge for the entire thing, but if you got a bucket, use it. You know, you've probably never seen that before, have you? Well, if you've been watching my channel, I show you that on a separate video. You know, how to flush a toilet like that. Okay, look, there you go. No water in it. Now I'm ready for the next step. What is the next step? Well, I can disconnect the toilet here. I think that'll be my next step. There's the water line underneath there, and see, this toilet has been caulked down to the floor. Now there's much discussion made about this. I usually caulk my toilets in down at the bottom. See here, this is a bead of caulking, and it just makes the toilet kind of look pre-finished. You know, lots of people are saying, hey, don't do that, because if it leaks, you're not going to be able to see the water coming out, especially if you're on the second floor. Let's say the water could leak beyond the wax ring, and then it could leak around the Herkel flange and drip down to the first floor. And then on the first floor ceiling, you're wondering, what is that mark up there on the ceiling next to the light fixture, next to the ceiling fan, next to the exhaust fan, and it could be that's your issue, okay? But because this is like this, I've got to gouge that out. I've got to score this with a sheetrock knife, score. And then see, here's the pipe. Here's the pipe up here. I've got to undo this. This is just a plastic nut. And sometimes, let's just see if I can, I'm kind of at a funky angle here. Yeah, see, I can't get it. Sometimes it's hand tight. I like to do it hand tight and then about a quarter or an eighth turn with a pair of pliers. So I'm gonna have to reach up in there with a pair of pliers and just loosen that. And then I can take that out. Let's just keep the camera rolling. I don't want you to think I'm doing any funny business on here. Hey, peace out, Video Joe. Keep watching my channel and you'll learn how to do these things. You'll start saving even more money around the house on your how-to projects and repairs. Yes, indeedy. Okay, so I'm going to take my pliers and loosen that. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. It works on just about everything. Not everything, though. Like your toilet. You know, this toilet handle, where the nut is, it's reverse threads on this particular one. Did you know that? Some people... I went to one place and the guy says, hey, the toilet handle's broken, the threads are stripped, I can't do anything with it. And I went in there and I just tightened it right up. I said, what are you talking about? Because I was kind of doing it as a joke because I knew he didn't think it was reverse threads. He tighten it, and it would just spin, and he thought it was bad. You know, not all toilets are like that, but this one is, and a lot of them are. Okay, so I'm just loosening that up. Okay, now I got that loose. And you know what else is reverse threads? Sometimes reverse threads, right here, your pop-up. The top of this sometimes is reverse threads. And you've got to try that sometimes. Sometimes I'll see this is off and somebody will have tried to screw it on there and they couldn't get it. They thought it was messed up. That's because it turned the opposite direction. Okay, not all of them, but some. Okay, you just have to kind of be aware of stuff like that. Okay, so now I've got to get my sheetrock knife out, and I always carry it like this with the retractable ones. Get the retractable ones, because then when you're not using your sheetrock knife, you can put it away and be safe, see? Because they have some that don't have this retractable area and the blade is always out. And you think, oh, I'll be careful with it. I'll just put it in my nail bag and be real careful. Well, every once in a while, your hand could slip, and this bugger is nice and sharp. I like to keep a sharp one in here. And this has a little utility case right in here where you can have 5 or 6 sharp ones, and then when you change them out, put your dull one in here in the bottom of it, let's say. Then if you go into knowing that you're going to do something that's going to mess up your blade anyways, use a dull one first, you know, before you mess up your sharp one. Okay, so now I've got to get down here and I've got to score. I've got to score this caulking. And I just have to keep scoring it with 2 hands, whatever. And I'll just have to keep doing it until I feel like I got enough of it loose. Okay? So I'm going to work at that right now, all the way around it. That's our next step. Well, that's all I got for this time. But I'll be back with more videos.